Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Of course, everybody wants to ride a motorcycle. You got to learn a little bit about it, the bikes themselves, and how to ride first.
And May is Motorcycle Awareness Month. That means for car drivers as well, you should be thinking about motorcyclists not only this month, but year-round and being aware of them on the road. We are very happy to be joined by Mark Kramer Kruger.
Hello, Kramer.
Motorcycle racing
Kramer?
champion.
You call me whatever you want, it's all good.
All right.
Hey, you! Let's talk maybe about your career first and how you got started racing. How did this come into your life?
Back in about 1996 or 7, I actually started racing little bikes called YSRs. They're actually half-size sport bikes. And how we came about it is I was at a place in Tawasin, a little racing go-kart track.
Yeah.
And when I went up there, I saw these guys racing these little bikes.
Is that one of them there?
No. That's a little cross dirt bike. Yeah. But it looks like a full-on sport bike. So when I was up there, I'm watching these guys. They got mag wheels and pipes. And I'm like, what a bunch of geeks, right?
Yeah.
3 months later, I was
going to say, you give it a try and you're addicted.
Now, you do a lot of racing and you do it on the track. We've got some pictures of you doing that. Well, how fast do you go when you're racing, Kramer?
Well, it depends on the racetrack, but the fastest I've been clocked was 304 kilometers per hour.
What? Really?
Down in the States, and it's like fully leaned over, so it's like.
How scary is that?
Well, if you crash at those speeds, it's not going to work out well.
Well, and we're seeing some sparks on this particular photo. When you hear that, and you're under Suzuki, is that a good sound to hear? Or
That's an awesome sound.
You like that?
That means you're on the pipe, is what they call it. You're actually moving.
Just the competition aspect of it as well. I mean, because you get to know a lot of the guys that are racing on the same circuits and stuff. Yeah. So there must be a high level of both camaraderie and competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the racetrack. There's been times, honest to God, when I've said in my helmet, I'd rather die than let this guy beat me. So it's a hatred thing.
Is that why they call you Kramer?
Well, there's a little bit of that in there, yes.
I love that.
Okay, May is Motorcycle Awareness Month, and of course, it is very important to learn how to ride a motorcycle, but being a rider yourself, how important is it for drivers of other vehicles to be aware of motorcycles?
Well, it's the utmost importance. However, when we train people to ride bikes, that's almost not a consideration because when they get their car license, nobody's training them to look for motorcycles.
Right.
So how do you train somebody that you can't even talk to?
Right.
Yeah.
So with the riders, you're invisible. When you learn to ride like you're invisible, now you're adapting to our culture here.
Well, and this is what you do in the other half of your life at Pacific Riding School. I mean, how important is that aspect? If people do want to get into this and they want to get a bike and they want to ride, how important is it to take a course and to really learn how to be aware and how to operate properly?
I mean, it can be the difference between life and death. If you learn one thing in a motorcycle course that could save your life, would that not be worth whatever the money is?
Yeah,
absolutely.
One little thing?
Now let's talk about the bike we've got here in the studio. Tell us about this bike and what kind of rider it's for.
This particular bike is a Yamaha V-Star 650. It's an intermediate level bike. Not a beginner's bike, not an advanced bike. This is an intermediate level bike that anybody would buy.
Do you see people make that mistake sometimes before they're coming to take the course? Like they bring their bike to Pacific Riding School and they've got too much bike?
A lot of gentlemen between 16 and 25 in that neighborhood, they'll buy what they call as a 600, which is a crotch rocket sport bike. What they don't understand is that specific bike is not a beginner's bike. It'll achieve 275 kilometers per hour in under 20 seconds flat.
So you don't want to start on that bike?
Well, they do because marketing says it's a hot bike, it makes me look good. I can pick up girls and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Depending on what kind of girls you want.
I was going to say, Kramer, it doesn't work for me. But let's look at some of the other options of bikes that we have because there is a right bike for everyone out there. What's the first one we've got here?
Is this a cross bike? Is that what
it's a dual-purpose bike. It's a Bmw Gs 800. And that will go on streets, that'll go on gravel roads. There's pretty much nowhere you can't go with that bike.
So beginner, intermediate, advanced?
Intermediate.
Okay.
Yeah, and are these good bikes? I mean, for someone who does want to, you know, maybe get off the beaten path, do some camping and stuff like that, do they work really well both on the street or are you compromising a little bit of each?
You're compromising. That particular bike, I'm going to go with percentages. It's probably about 60-65% for the street and the rest for gravel roads. Not really dirt or the trails.
Yeah. You don't want to be like doing tabletops.
No. Yeah.
Can you not do that again?
Sorry, that was
like it's going to the bathroom.
Now this is a gorgeous bike.
What here?
This is the BMW Cruiser. This is the full load machine. If you were going to go from here to Mexico, that's the bike you'd want.
You're going to be comfy on it?
Yeah, they got heated seats, they got airbags on them, they got cruise control,
they
got
airbags?
stereos.
I didn't know that.
That's the new
Honda
thing.
came out with them a few years ago. If you crash your bike, the air will go out and puff the bike up for you.
And do they work well, the airbag?
It only works in one scenario.
Right, but that's still a scenario.
One scenario out of the equation.
Yeah. But a bike like that, are there advanced and intermediate, like big cruiser bikes, if you're going on trips and stuff like that? Or?
It all basically comes down to engine displacement. If you have a larger engine, how it works is if you made a whoops with a big engine, it's a big whoops. Yeah. If you make a whoops or a mistake with a smaller engine, it's therefore a less whoops.
Nice.
So that's kind of how they decide intermediate, beginner, and expert.
Now
Kramer's whoops factor. That's what we'll call it.
Let's look at the next bike here. What is this guy?
That's another cruiser. That's going to be, I'm not to be honest with you, it's either a Kawasaki or a Yamaha. And that would be an intermediate to an experienced riders. That one's a very large engine. I think it's a 2,000 cc.
Wow, that's a beautiful bike, though, isn't it?
2,000 cc. Wow.
How many bikes do you have? I mean, obviously you have your racing bikes, and you're sponsored by Suzuki. How many bikes do you have in your life?
In my life, I'm a bit of a whore. I got about 35 bikes, including the bikes at the school.
Really?
35
personally, I got about 3 or 4 bikes.
Wow.
Now the next one we're going to look at, I think it's a Yamaha.
bikes.
What is this guy?
That's a Yamaha R6, and that's what would be your crotch rocket race bike. Those are the bikes that will do the 270 kilometers per hour.
I had no idea
So
they had
those are the ones that if you
fast.
are a
Most people
beginner
don't.
rider, you want to maybe start on something a little bit less advanced.
They have that bike detuned, so that that bike might have 120 horsepower. The same version of it, a little bit detuned, might have 90 horsepower.
Wowzer.
So that's a good way to start.
There's options, yes.
And can you advance through that? Is it on the same bike, or do you have to, like, the detuning?
You have to buy the detuned model and go from there.
Nice, I like it.
Now, if somebody wants to take a class, what kind of classes do you guys offer?
Well, it's a 30-hour program. There's 10 hours of classroom, 10 hours of parking lot training, 2 road rides. The first road ride for our students, we come right down here, Vancouver.
Are you the guys that we
Beautiful.
see in the little
Yes.
orange ones going?
Yes.
"Nah"?
I like that.
We have a one-way radio system, so we can blab to them the whole
Oh,
time.
that's fantastic.
Great.
if
And
you-
what about just quickly the racing season for you? When does it kick off? Can people?
Well, it kicked off last May 1st, and they got another one coming up this weekend. So the weather looks like it's going to be okay.
Yeah, you're not racing in the one this weekend.
this
but
weekend, no.
People can go out there and they can watch it as well.
See all the carnage and all the crashing.
Nice. Where's that? Where is it?
Out at Mission Raceways in the
Beautiful.
valley. Everybody wants to go see the crashing.
Absolutely. If you want to check it out, you can go to Pacific Riding School's website to find out all the info.
To give you some perspective on just how large this bike
And
is.
May is Motorcycle Awareness Month. Just so you know, if you're out there, watch out for the bikes. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Urban Rush after this. Stay tuned.
There you go.
Yay!
I knew someone would get on back with me. Hold on tight, big fella.